So the marine mammal that I had for the class is the northern right whale dolphins. The northern right whale dolphin's scientific name is Lysodelphis borealis, and they were discovered in 1848. And breaking down the scientific name, lyso is Greek for smooth, which makes sense when you look at the picture I have on this slide of the Lysodelphis borealis. You can see the really smooth texture of the dolphin that helps it slide easily between waves and increases its speed in the water. And borealis just indicates the northern distribution. It's also been referred to as the northern right whale porpoise, snake porpoise because of its speed, and the Pacific right whale porpoise. The reason it's been referred to as a porpoise instead of a dolphin at times is because of its shorter, stockier shape, which does make it look a lot like a porpoise. So looking at the taxonomy of the northern right whale dolphin, it's in the kingdom Animalia, the phylum Chordata, the class Mammalia, the order Cetacea, and the family Delphinidae, and the genus Lysodelphis and the species Borealis. And looking at the two pictures I have in the PowerPoint, the top picture is a picture of the northern right whale dolphin, and the bottom picture is a species that it's very closely related to, called the southern right whale dolphin, or the Lysodelphis pinoli, and or pinori, and they're very similar to the northern right whale dolphin, other than they prefer a different region to live in. They prefer the more southern hemisphere, and they prefer warmer waters, and also they have more distinct coloring. You can see that they have a more distinctly black top and then white bottom, whereas the northern right whale dolphin does again have that black top, but the white underbelly is less distinct, so you don't get that harsh line that is really noticed in the southern right whale dolphin. So the northern right whale dolphin is a relatively medium-sized for a dolphin. They're about 6.5 to 10 feet long, and they weigh anywhere between 130 and 250 pounds. The picture I have on this PowerPoint slide is a cartoon depiction because it's easier to make out their different features than when just taking a candid shot in the water. Like most other dolphins, the males are larger than the females, and they have a slender, streamlined body with a short beak, sloping forehead, a slim tail stalk, and small flukes. And the fluke is basically just the tail, and the tail stalk is the space between the flukes and then the dorsal fin. Although, unlike most dolphin species, the northern right whale dolphin doesn't have a dorsal fin, which makes it much easier to identify because typically you would see a dorsal fin on the rounded back of the dolphin, but in this case you don't. Also, a lot of times the northern right whale dolphin is mistaken for being a lot smaller than it is because of their slender, streamlined body, and they have a mostly shiny black coloration on their dorsal side, but this contrasts with a less visible white belly. This contrast is less visible than in their southern counterpart, but you do still see that discoloration. Calves, when they are born, are originally a muted dark gray brownish to cream color. So looking at their habitat, they prefer deep, cold, temperate waters of the North Pacific Ocean, and they're widely distributed, which just means that they're pretty evenly distributed between the waters surrounding Alaska down to the west coast off of California and Mexico. And they are found in waters over the continental shelf and the slope, and that are colder than 66 degrees Fahrenheit. And the times when you'll typically see them closer to shore are when we have underwater canyons right next to shore that mean the water is very deep there, because in general the northern right whale dolphin doesn't like really shallow water. They do participate in migration. They've been known to move south during the colder winter and autumn months in order to have warmer waters, and then north during the warmer spring and summer months. And looking at the diagram I have, you can see where the continental slope and the continental shelf are, which you will see the northern right-whale dolphin. Looking at their feeding, that's really closely related with their habitat, because the habitat they choose is based on the food that they like. So they're capable of diving and holding their breath for up to 6.5 minutes, and this is why they prefer deeper water, because they're able to dive deep down in order to feed on small fish and squid in that deep scattering layer. They find prey in dark waters using echolocation, and they have 37 to 54 pairs of small conical teeth that are useful for grasping their prey. But like other dolphins, they don't actually chew up their prey, they just bite it into chunks and then swallow it. The two species that they eat most often are market squid, and then even more commonly than market squid, they will eat lanternfish. In beach dolphins, they have found that lanternfish will make up roughly 89% of their diet. And these major prey items are found off of California's west coast. They will also eat various species of cephalopods, that's just the fancy way of saying squid, hawks, sauries, and several species of surface or mid-water fish. They travel in groups. It's typically around 200 to 300 dolphins, but they have been spotted in groups as large as 2,000 to 3,000 dolphins. And considering their behavior, they're very social with one another, and they will also be social with other types of cetaceans. Most commonly, they're seen with Risso's dolphins and Pacific white-sided dolphins, because they have such a similar area that they live in, especially the Pacific white-sided dolphin. And they will also be seen bow riding with whales. They communicate with one another using echolocation, but they can't make the whistles that other types of dolphins use. So they have a different substitute method that they use to communicate with one another. They are fast swimmers and make low-angled, graceful leaps out of the water, and they're very fast. They're reported reaching sustained speeds of 16 miles per hour, with short bursts of speed when they need to, say, catch prey or escape from predators of 22 miles per hour. But when they move slowly along the surface, this species can be really inconspicuous and show very little of their body, so they can be difficult to spot from boats because of the way their body blends into the ocean, because they do swim slowly along the surface and they don't have that dorsal fin that sticks out. They will occasionally engage in breaches, which basically jumps out of the water, flops, side slaps, and lob tails at the surface. And lob tails are just where they hit the surface of the water with their tail. While sometimes they will approach vessels, it really varies. Sometimes they've also been known to avoid vessels and can be really difficult to spot. So considering their reproduction, they're sexually mature and begin breeding at 9 years of age. They are polyandrous, and they will mate for pleasure. Some of this was already covered on the Delphinidae group, but just some general background. And then they have a gestation period of about a year, and females will give birth to a single calf that is about 2.5 to 3.5 feet long, and they usually give birth roughly every 2 years. And most calves are born during the summer, peaking in July and August, which makes sense because they'd want to have their babies at a time when the water is warmer. So at a time when they're smaller and they don't have very much blubber, they can still survive. Their estimated lifespan is 42 years or potentially longer, but a lot of this information that scientists have gathered is somewhat guesstimation because they don't know a lot about the reproduction or the lifespan of the northern right whale dolphin. The threats to the northern right whale dolphin are, so off the coast of California, Oregon, and Washington, there's estimated to be about 16,000 to 21,000 northern right whale dolphins. And in the entire North Pacific Ocean, scientists estimate the population to be roughly 68,000. However, before they were subject to bycatch in fisheries, their populations were much larger. But during the 1970s and 80s, fisheries targeting squid, which is their main food source, have also depleted local and regional stocks. And this has since been shut down by international law. So we've seen that their population has improved since that time, but it's still not at its original levels. And today they can still be taken in gill nets and sometimes directly killed in the Dall's porpoise harpoon dry fishery off of Japan. They are on the IUCN's red list of threatened species as a lower risk, least concern. As I said before, there are 68,000 estimated in the northern Pacific Ocean. So compared to a lot of marine mammals, this isn't a huge issue. And this species is protected under the Marine Mammal Protection Act of 1972. And in 1997, NMFS implemented the Pacific Offshore Cetacean Take Reduction Plan, which basically required the use of pingers and 6-fathom net extenders to reduce the bycatch of cetaceans by warning dolphins beforehand and by ensuring that dolphins had a way that they could escape. And that was really beneficial because that was the main threat to this species. So current research, I didn't find a whole lot, and I think this is because they blend easily into the water and they can avoid boats, so less research has been done on this species of dolphin versus the bottlenose, which is very friendly. Also, they don't do well in captivity. Of 2 captive dolphins housed by a live catch fishery, one died due to stress after 3 days, and the other only lived 15 months in a 540,000-gallon display tank. All documented strandings have been of single dolphins, and that's how they do a lot of their research. That's how they've discovered the stomach contents of dolphins. And typically only a few individual strandings will occur each year. There was an exception in 1981. 23 dolphins were stranded off the coast of California. And strandings have been mainly linked with pathological conditions caused or irritated by parasites. And this is my works cited page. Sorry I went a little over. I hope you enjoyed this presentation.